The issue of rights has become kind of a hot topic in recent history, within the past few years, as to what people consider rights and what people do not consider rights. And these have been contested by a great number of people. So I thought I'd give my 2 cents on the issue. You don't have the right to force me to lie. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the things that's been going on recently is the coming of Dr. Jordan Peterson. I've talked about him before in a couple of my videos. He has put forward he has refused to use certain language that is being compelled onto him. And a lot of people say things like people have a right to be addressed the way they do, but here's the real problem with that. You do not have the right to force another person to address you in any way. You don't have the right to force another person to acknowledge your existence, and you don't have a right to put your hands on somebody else if they do not speak in a way in which you desire. What's going on is there are people that do not believe that these are correct pronouns. The people do not believe that these are correct manners of speech. I'm not saying whether or not they're right or wrong. I've said in previous videos people have the right to be wrong. But you do not have the right to force somebody to say something that they do not believe is true. Nobody has that right. Not a single person. Dr. Jordan Peterson has been protested, has been shouted down, has been bullied. There's really no other way to put it. He has been bullied so that people would try to, and people have been trying to silence him. And, I mean, God bless Dr. Peterson, he's been showing remarkable bravery and not allowing himself to be silenced. I mean, you can think he's wrong. You are perfectly entitled to think that he is wrong. That's totally fine. But you do not have the right to force him to lie. Now, recently, at Wilfrid Laurier University, I'm sure all of you have heard this, an assistant TA, I believe an assistant TA, named Lindsay Shepard, was brought before, there's no real other way to say it, a social justice tribunal, and asked to account for her actions simply for showing her students a clip of a show involving Dr. Jordan Peterson on a national Canadian television show. She was brought before a tribunal and made to answer for that. Now, she had the forethought to record that, record the entire thing, and thank God she did. Because it did not look well, it did not look good for the university. The university did put forth an apology, a couple of apologies. The president of the university put forth an apology, but the apology sounded pretty forced, and I don't know. Honestly, I think that our modern day philosopher Rihanna pretty much sums it up.
Don't tell me you're sorry, 'cause you're not. And baby, when I know you're only sorry you got caught.
Yep. Another right that's been going around is people's right to demand service from other people. Well, you don't have the right to force me to serve you. This has been very easy to see in cases like the Washington florist Baronelle Stutzman, places like Memories Pizza, places like like Bedlam Coffee in Seattle, where people have come under fire for refusing service to others for ideological or religious reasons. But and mind you, I'm one of those people that believes that people should have the right to engage in service with whoever they wish to, and shouldn't be forced to serve anybody. But the biggest area where this is being shown is in the healthcare debate, specifically the universal healthcare debate. People are talking about healthcare as a right. Well, sorry, healthcare is not a right. It's not a privilege either, it's a commodity. Healthcare is one of those things that has to be provided by other people. You do not have a right to force anybody to serve you. If you want somebody to provide you with healthcare, you have to compensate them for that. It is not incumbent on a society to provide you with healthcare. The only reason that society would provide you with healthcare is if you are providing society with an equal commodity, with equal value. Just simply demanding free healthcare for all, first off, isn't free, and second off, doesn't entitle you to healthcare. Like, just because you demand it doesn't entitle you to it. If you want somebody to provide you with a service or a product, you must compensate that person for that service or product. Period. To do otherwise, to pretend like you are entitled to somebody else's labor, is tantamount to slavery. And that's not okay. We made slavery illegal like 150 years ago. I'm not keen on going back to it. Finally, you don't have the right to take away my rights. Now, we've seen this a lot in recent memory, with, as I said before, Dr. Jordan Peterson being shouted down and being bullied by people when he having people go into places where he is trying to give a talk or a lecture with air horns and loud chanting and profanity. Same thing has happened with Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos and a host of other conservative speakers. You do not have the right to shout somebody down. Now, a lot of people say that they have the right to do this due to their free speech, because of free speech, because they are exercising their right to free speech. But your right to... One of the things a lot of people don't understand about free speech is that it's not just freedom from the government preventing you from speaking. It's not just that that you can say whatever you want without fear of the government coming in and arresting you. It also means that you can say whatever you want, and you are still protected by the government from your rights being infringed on anybody else. And one of the other parts of the First Amendment is the freedom to peaceably assemble. And that's the part that keeps on getting left out. Every single time somebody organizes a speech or a debate and invites a controversial speaker, that is essentially private property. And if you wish to protest it, you have every right to protest it outside that venue. You have no right to go inside that venue and disrupt it. You have no right to go in and try to shout a person down when they are attempting to speak to other people and other people are trying to listen, because that is you infringing on their right to peaceably assemble. Now, you don't have to like what he has to say. In fact, if you want to protest what somebody has to say, I absolutely encourage that. The main purpose of protest is for you to say, hey, look at this person. Look at what this person is saying. Isn't it gross? Isn't it disgusting? I want everybody to see what I see. So take a look. That's what protest is for. I've heard people saying things like protest is designed to overthrow bad ideas. No, protest is not designed to overthrow bad ideas. Protest is designed to call attention to bad ideas. That is what protest is for. If you are using protest to try to shut down somebody else's speech, you are doing it wrong. Now, you do have a right to defend yourself in an equal fashion. If you are under attack, you have the right to defend yourself in an equal fashion. What does that mean? If somebody is using speech you consider offensive, if somebody is using speech you consider an attack, you have every right to use your speech in response. You do not have the right to become physical. You don't have the right to become physical until somebody else has become physical with you. Now, the moment somebody does become physical with you, you have every right to respond with a physical response. One of the least talked about, but I think one of the more important examples of this was in the case of Lucian Wintrich. He was giving a speech. I don't remember which university it's at, but he was giving a speech, and it was being protested. There were people interfering with his ability, with his freedom to peaceably assemble, and all the people that were there to listen to him. And some girl came up and stole his papers. And then he went over, jumped on her, and grabbed his papers back. Yeah, he was perfectly entitled to do that. He had his rights physically infringed upon. A physical response was appropriate. Sorry, you don't steal another person's property. It doesn't matter what kind of value you attach to that property. The value is not for you to decide. You do not get to infringe on other people's rights. You have the right to defend yourself in an equal fashion. And you have the right to speak your mind. If you believe something is true, you have the right to speak it. That's how it is. If you believe something is true, you have a right to speak it. If you believe something is true and it's not true, and it is demonstrated to not be true, and you continue speaking it, you can be, of course, sued for libel, because then you're saying something that has been demonstrated to be untrue. Not that that happens a whole lot. But if you believe something is true, and it has not been objectively proven to be false, you have the right to say it. You have the right to say it in a public venue or in your own venue. I encourage everybody to exercise their rights, but don't be confused about what are and are not your rights. You don't have the right to force anybody to say anything. You don't have the right to force anybody to serve you. You don't have the right to take away anybody else's rights. The common theme is, you have the right to yourself. You do not have the right to anybody else. I don't know. I'm just some guy with a camera.